So we're going to look at what is the best folio case for the M4 iPad Pro here. And my requirements for all of these cases is that they magnetically attach and obviously are folio cases. The reason magnetic attachment is a requirement for me personally is because I am a Magic Keyboard user and I need to be able to easily remove my iPad from one of these cases and then attach it to the Magic Keyboard whenever I want to. And just taking it in and out of a case that snaps around it is kind of fiddly for me, and I'm not a big fan of that. So setting the iPad off to the side, we're going to focus in on the cases themselves for a moment, as the first category we're talking about is build quality. Then I want to go into the protectiveness, the viewing angles, the Apple Pencil compatibility, and value of all these cases. But getting started with build quality gives you an idea of if any of these cases are even really worth buying. I mean, you want them to be able to hold up at least a little bit. So that is the biggest thing here. We're going to start with the Apple Folio case. Now, this case has the highest retail price out of any of these folio cases. Now, I have heard some people finding it for much cheaper now, like for $25 or $35, but it retails for around $90, and that's a lot of money for one of the simplest folios in our lineup here. On the inside, it is really, really soft microfiber lining, but as you can see, it definitely collects lint. I mean, this is after I tried wiping it out a little bit as well, but some of that lint, it's just not coming off very easily. I mean, I can try to get some more out, but it's definitely going to collect lint, especially if you ever have it off your iPad and put it in a bag or something. Just know that. And then, of course, you get the Apple logo imprinted on the back here. That's really what you're paying for here, is that logo. And the quality is really, really good. It's probably one of the best quality of materials in our entire lineup here. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. It can kind of get dirtier. I don't know if you can see some of the discoloration that I have on mine here. And yeah, it's just a very simple trifold folio with a couple tricks up its sleeve that we'll get in when we get to the viewing angle segment. If you're a fan of really light cases, though, this is probably going to be a good one for you as well. It's 207 grams, or 206 actually, and that's going to be one of our lighter cases, as you'll see in this lineup. Then let's move on to the ESR case, and no, this is not one for the M4 iPad Pro. I had one for it for a while, but I ended up selling it off, so I don't have that one on me anymore, but this is the one I kept for the iPad Mini 7, as I just wanted a really cheap case that worked for my iPad Mini, and that's exactly what this does. But as you can see, it definitely has gotten a few scratches over the few months of owning it, and it has probably shown the most wear out of any of them. Now, in its defense, all three of these cases I have gotten way more recently than this iPad Mini case. The only one that is older than it is this Apple. I got this day one with my iPad Pro. So you got to give Apple credit, at least. Their cases do hold up over time. But yeah, there's some minor imperfections and scuffs. But I could also bought like 3 or 4 of them and still been under the price that I paid for the Apple Folio. So is that worth it? I don't know. It does have a microfiber lining too, not quite as soft as Apple's, but I've never had it scratch my iPad or anything like that, and it seems to keep it pretty safe. And obviously it has a flap here as well, where the Apple Folio doesn't. Otherwise, everything is pretty much the same as far as functionality. I'm not going to weigh that one because it's not really made for this iPad, but here is the weight that ESR says that that case is for the M4 11-inch. One more flaw I kind of want to mention with the ESR case is it definitely can smudge pretty easily, especially if you have greasier hands. It will leave a lot of smudge marks. I mean, you can see even right there, I got a few more on it, where the Apple Folio didn't seem to do that much, and honestly, none of them smudge as much as at least the black version of that ESR case. Next up is the Techfish Folio case, and to be perfectly honest, I only recently got this case. I released my unboxing video as a YouTube short, and I haven't even made a full review on it, but I'm going to put it in this comparison because I had really good first impressions, and I think it deserves to be compared alongside these other ones as well. At first glance, it looks a lot like the ESR folio case. It has a very similar looking Apple Pencil flap. It has very similar kind of thinner microfiber lining on it. And it has that tri-folding design that gives you basically the same kinds of angles with a twist of this Y fold that we'll get into later. And then as you can see, it actually has like these bump outs for the corners and some plastic at the edges. You might think I just broke my rule and I brought a non-magnetic case here because clearly this snaps on. No, that's not true at all. It is still fully magnetic, and that is how it attaches. And then when you want to take it off, it's just a magnet. So I think that's really neat. It kind of seems like they're trying to solve the problem of folios not having good side and corner protection, but we'll get into that more in the protectiveness segment. And I do think this black stays a little bit cleaner than ESR's, but just with black leather-like material in general, they just tend to get a little bit more fingerprinty. So I'm sure if I got the white version, it probably would have been a little bit cleaner looking, but this does not look bad at all. Again, I still think it's an improvement over ESR's case, and it's a really good option to consider for you guys out there. So for the weight on the Techfish Folio, that's going to be 289 grams, so definitely heavier than the Apple Folio, but not terribly so. Then we have the Pitaka Folio, and I just released my review on this one last week. If you missed it, it's going to be linked in the description down below. But this one has some really good microfiber lining, almost as good as Apple's itself, but it also has that same problem of definitely collecting lint. And then it has a pencil flap that actually has a spot to kind of tuck away into the case as well, which is neat. And a very unique triangular folding design for the cover. And otherwise, a pretty simplistic leather-like design. Again, I haven't had this one for too long, so how well will this hold up over time? I'm not 100% sure, but the only thing I'll caution you about it is someone commented in a previous video on it that theirs broke and degraded within like 3 months. I didn't get a lot of details on how it broke, but that's just what I was told. So they could have had a bad folio case, or they could have been doing things with it that push it to the limit. I'm not sure. But I figure you at least deserve to know that someone reported that issue. But in my experience, it's been working great for me. I really do enjoy this folio. I had incredibly positive first impressions. It almost took the place as the folio I was going to use on my iPad pretty much permanently, but I don't think it will end up being that. And the Pitaka Folio is going to be 237 grams, still heavier than Apple's Folio, but even less. Then we have Moff's Dynamic Folio, and I'm just going to come right out and say it. I love this case. If you saw my review of it, you know that I was kind of gushing over it a lot, and I still kind of am. Now, this case is not perfect, so it's not going to be the case for everybody out there. Again, we'll get into more of that later. But as you can see, there's kind of like these air cushions almost built into the case. There's some little glyphs and icons to help show you where and how to do some of the folding, which I think is super helpful. This case has so many angles, but they make it as simple as possible to achieve those angles and to remember those angles. And I appreciate that because sometimes with Moff's products, you can get a little confused. But this is certainly dynamic. It has a striking blue inside with a gray outside. And I think the black one is just black on black. So if you want something a bit more low-key, that's fine. And I personally would have loved an all-white version. That's the color I kind of like with my silver iPad. But this pops really nice against it too. And I love that design. It feels really solid. Their Movas vegan leather has always held up well for me. So I think this one's going to last a long, long time. And it has lots of little tricks up its sleeve that we'll get into. And then the Moff Folio is 289. So this is the heaviest out of all of these folios, but considering what it does, I think that's justified. But that could be a concern for you guys as well. They market it as being really thin and light, and I think it is compared to some other brands, but compared to all of these, even this one, it's still barely lighter. Not by much, but it is barely lighter. Or I guess now it's reading the same weight too. So they're pretty much on par with each other, and Pitaka's, Apple's, and ESRs are definitely going to be a little bit lighter feeling, but fractionally. All right, so that's the build quality. But which one out of these five actually has the best build quality? Probably Apple's Folio. I hate to give it any kind of credit here, but it does feel really nice, and it has held up really well for 1 year of use. And I can't guarantee that that's true for any of these other third-party cases. So this is the category. Apple's Folio takes the win, but don't get comfortable with it winning. It's not really going to win anymore. So which one out of these is the most protective? Well, definitely not Apple's. Let's get that out of the way. And ESR, not so much either. Basically the same coverage as Apple's. The edges of the Folio slightly extend past on both of them, but not really enough to give that much drop protection. And how about Pitaka? Same thing here. Barely extends. In fact, this might even be worse than the other two, hardly extending past the iPad itself. Yeah, not Pitaka either. It ain't winning this category. So now the only two left are the Moth Folio and the Techfish. And I think you guys know where I'm going with this. But let's see about Moths here. So nope, barely extending past the edges as well. Now this case is slightly thicker on those edges, so it probably would offer a bit more resistance than these three, maybe. But yeah, still not offering a lot of protection on the sides. They all do pretty good about the front screen and the back of the iPad. In fact, I think these little air gaps in here would probably absorb some impact pretty well for the back of the iPad. So I'm definitely giving this a number 2 spot for sure in protectiveness. But the number 1 is definitely Techfish here with the corner protection that it has and a really big oversized Apple Pencil flap that will keep your pencil attached no matter what. So yeah, great corner protection here. That's tend to be where the iPads would fall, is right on the corners. And even the sides have this like half lip on them, so they're gonna protect some of that side impact much better than a typical Folio case. However, like the ESR case, Pitaka's case, Apple's case, even probably Moth's can typically work with one of those really thin cases that are meant for the Magic Keyboard use. Because if they work for the Magic Keyboard, they probably work for a Folio case. At least in my experience, it's typically true. In fact, I think Pitaka even markets theirs as compatible with their Folio case. And ESR has its own inner case as well that you can pair with the Folio. So there is some options there if you want to have a bit more of a protective Folio. But in my experience, they work, but they aren't great. Like, they do add some thickness, so the Magic Keyboard doesn't close as well, and some of the Folios might not close as well. I just don't tend to use them. I find that they bring a little bit more annoyance than usefulness, but they're an option that you guys can totally look into. I'll have a few of those linked below as well. So this definitely has the best hybrid protectiveness that I think out of any case out there. It's one of the best hybrid Folios because it still keeps the magnetic nature of the Folios that I really like. All right, so we have Techfish's case here. We'll start with that one, and in the viewing angles category, and it's going to be a pretty typical Folio case for that. So you have the triple fold that goes behind, and you get a pretty average stand here. Great for most kinds of content consumption. Then for a drawing angle, you can fold it down here and have a nice deeper drawing angle. And this works great. You can also lift it up like that and do what ESR calls their typing angle. They kind of advertise that as an angle. I don't know if it's that stable to really be called an angle, but TechFish has basically the exact same kind of folding here, so it can do that too. But then there's also that Y fold, and that does basically just one main thing. You fold it this way and put it behind the iPad like that, and then it brings a portrait mode viewing angle that is pretty stable. I mean, I could draw on this thing and, you know, show off some of my art skills. Like, look at that. Look at that smiley face. I mean, you have not seen a better smiley face, guaranteed. But it's a pretty stable. It's a little more angled down than I would prefer. I'd prefer a bit more straight up and down for a portrait mode viewing angle, but it's not bad, and it can definitely have its uses. Have used it when testing out this case already, and I do quite like it. As you can see, the Apple Pencil flap also folds really nice, has a good magnet back here that keeps it flush, so it's not getting in your way when you don't need it. So for the ESR, it's basically just like that, except it doesn't have the portrait mode viewing angle. I'm not going to show you that one completely separately. So we're going to go with Pitaka's next. So the first angle is folding these two sections in half, so the Pitaka logo is up front, folding that behind, getting this backwards triangular shape, and then that's your typical upright viewing angle. I think that looks great. I have no problems there. Really solid, very stable. And then the next one is folding basically the other way, putting the triangle behind it. And then you get another slightly lower viewing angle as well if you want it that way, but it's more meant for the drawing angle, which is a bit more upright than I'd probably prefer for a drawing angle, but it definitely works. It does the job, but not my favorite drawing angle for sure. And then this case also does have a portrait mode viewing angle as well. You have to put it back the other triangular fold, and then this stays upright. It's slightly more upright than the TechFish one, so I think that's a bit better of an angle. It's not too different, and again, it's pretty stable. It gets a little rocky in this corner because it doesn't have much behind it, but pretty much everywhere else, it's almost rock solid. Next, we'll show off the Apple Folio. This is another one of those tri-folds, but it does fold a little bit different. Actually, they changed it up for their M4 iPad Pro specifically, so the drawing angle is actually even flatter now. And to be honest, it's a little too flat, almost. Kind of like with Pitaka's being a little too high. This doesn't make it impossible to draw on, but I would like a bit more elevation. But because of that smaller and flatter triangle, it gives you basically a complete straight up and down. It's a little top heavy, so be careful with that. But a complete straight up and down angle, which is kind of nice when it's on like a higher platform and you're looking at it. I think that works a bit better, but honestly, it's still not my favorite way to view it anyway. So basically, they added magnets. You can slide it along and kind of adjust the angle to almost whatever you'd like it until about here. And this is where it stops. So that's kind of cool, although it really does want to go all the way to the top and stop there very much so. So good luck getting it to stay super solidly in one of those in-between angles. But hey, it's kind of a neat idea, and I like that Apple tries something a little different with this Folio. And I do think this is a really nice and very solid viewing angle right there. And you can leave it like that for a drawing angle as well if you want a bit higher of one. This is about what Pitaka's is, maybe a little bit smaller still. So yeah, that works. But yeah, not a lot of options with Apple's Folio, but I think it's still probably better in viewing angles than ESR's. Then there is the champion, the king of all viewing angles, the Moft Dynamic Folio. You're going to want to use these little icons to figure out where you want to fold it in the correct directions. So fold these two together. That's one angle right here. You can then move it down to give an even lower drawing angle. And this is probably the more technical drawing angle. That's a lot more solid and works great. With also an optional spot to put your phone there as well. It's like another reference screen, which I think is really neat. It does actually have magnets there, so if you have a MagSafe phone, it will kind of keep it in place. It's not perfect, but it definitely helps. I also like to take it together like this as well and fold it back using this flap. I don't think this is an official angle at all, but it gives a really solid lower viewing angle, and you can totally do that. You could also set it on top of that. Again, not official angle. This is kind of top heavy, but it does work for the most part. But getting back to actual supported angles, you'll want to take these two circles, fold them together, and then you get an actual supported floating angle here. And I have used this alongside my laptop many times. It's one of my favorite things to do with this case. I love that it has an elevated angle like that. And then it has another floating angle where if you fold this backwards, well, now you have this completely like floating above workstation here, and that looks so cool. I'm a huge fan of that. And this is actually stable enough to draw on pretty well. It gets a little shaky sometimes, but overall, I can keep things pretty straight looking. Well, for me at least. But it looks good, and I love that elevated angle. And one of the ideas they show with this is that you could be working with your iPad with maybe like a keyboard and mouse, having it up like this. Then someone's on the other side of your desk or someone's coming up to you and you want to show them what you're working on. Guess what? You could just flip it down and show them like that. And that's a neat idea too. Then you can't forget about this square. It's in the back here, and that lifts up. And then if you put that on top, it snaps down real tight. And now you have a really upright portrait mode angle. And this is my favorite of all the portrait mode angles. This is the proper way it should be oriented, I think. It pretty much straight up and down is how I prefer it. Maybe not everyone will, but I think this works the best. And then, of course, you could still put it straight up and down in this mode as well. And it gives you gives you pretty much just as straight as the Apple Folio one does, which is a neat option. And you could use this to have a more elevated drawing angle. All that is possible with this case. Hopefully I didn't miss an angle because there's so much to this one. And yeah, it's the heaviest one probably, but I think it comes with the most features. So for viewing angles, I'm definitely giving the win to the Moft Dynamic Folio. I know, surprise, surprise, but it just definitely has the most. I think in almost all of the angles too, it's really stable. And that's true for most of these guys. I think the weakest angles out of all of them is the portrait mode with the tech fish can get a little shaky in the top sections. I think that's also true for the Pataka in portrait mode and like the really straight up and down version of the Apple Folio, where this almost has no downsides to its angles. Probably the weakest angle is this floating mode, but it's still not that bad, especially for certain kinds of work. But it still doesn't feel like it's going to fall over or anything. It just can get a little shaky for certain kinds of work. All right, so now which one has the best way to handle the Apple Pencil? And since I already have the Moft one on, I'll talk about it first. As you can see right here, there is a cutout on the case. That is actually for an optional Apple Pencil holder that you can purchase. It is not included with the case. I'm trying not to show it off too much because guess what? You don't get it just by default. But you can add that on, and I do have one, and it is a nice option to have to keep the pencil on even better. And the beauty of it is you can keep that on when you move back to the Magic Keyboard, and you can give the Magic Keyboard a way to hold the Apple Pencil on as well, which none of the other cases have that at all. Then the worst one out of all of them, the Apple Folio, has nothing to help you hold the Apple Pencil on. It will come off pretty easily in a bag, or even just carrying it and you accidentally hit it on something, it's flying off. Trust me, it's happened a million times to me. It will come off. So if you really want to make sure it's not going to come off, you got to either buy that accessory for the Moth Folio, or you have to get one of the cases that have a pencil loop built in. So Pitaka one, obviously you can hide that loop if you don't want to use it, but I recommend just keeping it out. And now that Apple Pencil is not going anywhere, you can kind of push it through maybe, but I've never had that happen to me. When I've had this loop on, it's always stayed. But then probably the most secure out of all of them is going to be the TechFish case. So again, with that protectiveness and security and all that kind of stuff, TechFish is where it's at for the most part. You're getting this almost oversized flap, and that was on purpose, so you could not really push it through the flap at all. It's going to completely cover it. It's going to keep it safe from scratches for the most part as well. So if you want to keep your pencil safe, this is a really good way to do it. ESR is pretty close, but it's still not even quite as full and protective as this one. So it gets the win for Apple Pencil here, because it just definitely keeps it safe the most. Although I still don't think this is going to be everyone's preferred option. My preferred option is either the Pitaka or the Moft, because with Pitakas I can hide the loop, and even if I don't, the loop is just a lot smaller and doesn't take up as much space. So I personally prefer that look. I'm sure the other one functions better, but I like the look of this more. And then the next favorite for me is the Moft one, because I like the removable plastic holder that's definitely going to not let it go anywhere, and the fact that I could use it with my Magic Keyboard. All right, so what's all the prices of these cases? Well, the TechFish is second cheapest at $30. Then we have the Apple Folio at $80. I know I said 90 earlier, it is 80. Then both the Moft Dynamic Folio and the Pitaka Folio are $50. Although Moft is only on pre-order right now, so you're gonna have to wait a little longer to get it. And then the ESR ranges from 20 to like 23 depending on the color. I've also seen it drop down to like $10, $15 at times too, so you might catch it at a better sale. But right now, those are the current prices on Amazon. Although the Moft Folio is not Amazon, that's just on Moft's website since it's on pre-order right now. With that all being said, which has the best value? Well, I'm ruling out the Apple Folio right away. I don't think it's premium enough. The lack of Apple Pencil flap and any way to keep it on or really keep it protected at all, the lack of just general protectiveness, and the fact that it has one of the least amount of angles out of all of them, it's just not worth basically double the price of everything else. Even though it has held up well over a year, I'm still not feeling it's worth that. Both of these for $50, I think that's relatively fair, at least with my experience of them right at this moment. Again, if Pitaka's case really only lasts 3 months before it degrades and falls apart, it is not worth $50. But I have yet to see any signs of real wear on it, and I've been using it pretty regularly for a few weeks now. So we'll have to see about that. I think the way the Moft Folio feels really tough and durable to me, I don't see this going anytime soon. I think it is worth $50, and it has the functionality to prove it. And even if you spend the extra and get the little Apple Pencil attachment, you're still spending less than the Apple Folio, and you're getting so much more that you can do with it. And then for the cheaper options of TechFish or ESR, which one would I go for? I'd say TechFish. Honestly, I think it has enough of an edge over ESR to spend $10 more. It's not that much of a difference, but the functionality differences is pretty big. It's got a couple more angles you can do because of the Y-fold. It has probably a more protective flap feels a little bit more premium quality, and it's definitely more protective on the edges. So that's my recommendation. If you're looking for a cheap case to do it all, get TechFish. If you're looking for the best value case out there, I'd say go with the Moft. I mean, you're gonna have to wait a little bit to get it in, but this case is just awesome. It's gonna last you a long time, and it just has so much that it can do that you're just never really gonna need another case. That's kind of my recommendations to you guys. Obviously, you might think that protectiveness matters way more than any other category, and then I would probably go with TechFish. Or you might think that the the build quality and just the premium feel is all that really matters. Well, then go with the Apple Folio, spend the extra money. That's okay. But hopefully this video broke down the different categories enough for you guys to know which is the best folio for you. And for me, I'm saying the best folio is the Moft Dynamic Folio for sure. Once I'm done with my testing of some of these other ones, I'm putting this folio on my iPad, and I don't think I'm ever going back to a different folio. At least not long term. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a like and comment down below, and of course, subscribe. It does help this channel out. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subscribers really soon here, and if we can get to 5,000 subscribers before the end of May, I know that's bold, before the end of May, I will do a double giveaway of anything in the Graf-X tech store. So 2 people will win, and they can pick whatever they want. If we don't make it before the end of May, I'll still do a giveaway at 5,000 subscribers, but it will just be one person that will win, and they will just get a t-shirt. They won't get a choice of anything. It will just be a t-shirt, and they can give me their size and what color and stuff like that, but that's it. So get subscribed, get your friends to subscribe so that you and they can have a chance to win. All you have to do to enter is just comment below on this video and any other ones after it till the end of May. Even if we don't make 5,000 by the end of May, that's when the giveaway entry period is gonna end. After that point, it's locked in. If you didn't comment before May, well, too bad. I already picked a winner, and then I'm just waiting on the time we cross 5,000. If you haven't seen my new merch store, go to grafxtech.com. I think I did a pretty good job laying everything out. And if you're looking for the pen loop and the Supernote Manta, that's there too now. And if you have any suggestions on something I should add to that store or other kinds of merch you'd like to see, definitely put that in the comments below as well. I want it to be able to be somewhere that you guys can go to just support the channel and get something fun for yourselves too. Trust me, I'm not getting a lot from those shirts and things. I just want you guys to be able to have fun with it. And I put things as minimal profit-wise as I possibly could. So I earn a little something. It's not like I put a 50% markup on those shirts. I'm getting like $3 to $5 maximum per shirt. This shirt I'm wearing actually did come from that store, so I got a couple in for myself as samples, and I think the quality is up to my standards. They look really nice to me. Let me know what you guys think of this new gray and black shirt in the comments down below as well. But thank you for watching, and as always, have a great rest of your day.